Check out this stunning quilt behind me. This 4-patch is a gorgeous quilt that I finished in a day. Actually, I finished it yesterday afternoon, and it is so simple, and I'm going to share with you exactly what I did to make this quilt so easy. And you can use your own fabric. You can use yardage. You can use pre-cuts. That's what I did. I used layer cakes on this, but you can also use your scraps. There is so much you can do with this, and it is a time saver. We can't always get a quilt finished as fast as we want, but with these tips, you are going to be making quilts much more quickly. I'm going to show you step by step from choosing the fabrics to cutting to piecing to you creating your own quilt in a day. I'm Louise from Inspired Quilting by Louise, and let me show you how you can get your finished quilt together this afternoon. I just bought this layer cake at an end of summer sale, and I am so excited to use it. Now, this is a fabric line by Moda, and the designers, mother-daughter team, Sherry and Chelsea, and it's called Simply Delightful. Now, they have probably 3 or 4 different collections in this colorway. Mostly the same colorway, but it has a lot of beautiful bright colors, and I love it. And I've used different collections of this fabric by them before. This is one of the newer ones. I just finished a quilt. That'll be coming up soon. But I wanted to do a super easy quilt today. I want to make a quilt top, and then all I'll have to do is quilt it up later. One of the simplest ways for me to make a quilt is with a 4-patch, and even simpler is a 4-patch in a 4-patch. So we're going to do a number of different blocks, put them together into larger blocks, and then piece that into a larger quilt. Now, the layer cake has 42 pieces. And that's going to work out fine because I'm going to alternate blocks. So I'll take 21 that are going to be intact just as they are, and then the other 21 I'm going to mix into smaller 4-patches. And by alternating the pieces, that's going to change things up a little bit. In order to divide my fabrics up, what I want to do is take the pieces that are most brightly colored and have lots going on that are going to look good standing on their own. Now I can come back and change this after the fact, but I just want to do a quick divide and see. Now stripes, I think I'd like those on the smaller 4-patches. So let's see where we are. And okay, see, like this I like as a large square. And then I'll have to go through and kind of do a count and see where I am. Just because this is very monochromatic. Now, that doesn't mean I may change my mind and go back and use some of them because I may need them to get my 21 blocks. So let's see. These are some really pretty colors. I really like these series. And a white background always brightens things up. Okay, we got a couple of those and the stripes. And this one, look at them, so pretty. Okay, now, oh, and some more dots. Gotta love the dots. So let me go ahead through this and see where I am, and I'll show you how we're going to make our quilt. Now I have 2 piles of my layer cakes, my 10-inch squares. These are the multicolor that I'm going to leave in 10 inches. I'm going to set those aside for just a moment. These are the ones that I'm going to use in my 4-patches. So what I want to do is put 4 fabrics together. Let me lay them out this way so that there's a different mix. And let's see, I'm going to put that one aside. So where I have a duplicate, I'm going to put it aside for something else. So let's put this stripe in here. Okay, so now this one it's a real pale pattern, but it does have all the colors. I'm going to put a stripe. Let's see, 1, 2, yes, because I'm doing 4 different patterns here. So 1, 2, and then I'll do 1 here. All right, so I have my 21 pieces of my layer cake that I'm going to use for 4 patches. I took the solid white one out. It's kind of a white on white, tone on tone, and I pulled in a different print from the other layer cake that I had left over. And after I divided up my fabric, I realized there's an easier way to do this, and I want to share that with you. Don't start with 4 piles, make 5 piles, and each of your 5 piles will have 4 blocks each, and that's 20, but we have 21. So pick whichever pile you want and add that extra block in there. And then as you're mixing up your blocks, when we cut them, which is coming up in a few minutes, it'll all get integrated in there together, and that's going to be fine. But this will definitely save you some time. But I want to show you the idea behind the blocks that we're choosing. You can see here that we have, let me get back here so you can see it, the larger block on this side and then the 4 patch. So this block over here is the one that we want to divide out that will stand alone by itself. And then the smaller prints and the stripes and such will make perfect 4 patch blocks for these quilts. So this goes together so quickly. You see where I'm going with this? And it's a lot of fun to showcase a lot of different fabrics. And I'm telling you, this is a great scrappy quilt. So let's go ahead and finish, and I will fill you in at the end on anything else that we need to keep in mind. But this was a big one, and I wanted to tell you right away. Okay, let's continue. But the first thing we're going to do is put our blocks together in a pile. And I like to kind of alternate my sort of solids with prints. And then, let's see, what do we have here? We have another bright one on top like this. Now, these are 10 inches, and we're going to cut them into 4 5-inch squares. I just want to make sure everything is lined up nice and even. So I'm going to put this on my mat, though actually I have my 5-inch ruler so that I don't even have to use the grid. I'll pick up my 5-inch ruler, I'll put it right on the edge, and you know, I'm going to just make sure I've got 5 inches on this side. All right, because sometimes when you get those zigzag edges, it's sort of like, do you count it inside, outside? How do those go? I don't know. I haven't figured that out in a way that works every time. I think everybody does it a little different, but that's okay. It's pretty minuscule and not too much of an issue. So I have my 5 groups of 4 different layer cakes. I've cut them in half and then half again. And now what I'm going to do is just sort of redistribute the fabric, because what we're going to do is sew these first along one seam and then the other to create our 4 patch. Now, I can stop right here and sew these together. What I'd like to do, though, is mix some of these colors up so I don't have 4 blocks with these same 4 colors. Now, what I think I will do is take one of each like this and just move them around. This will go here. This will go here. And we'll tuck that up there. So that changes that around. And then I think I'll do the same on this. So I used this corner, and then I'll change this corner. So I'll go this one, and this one, this one, this one, and that. Okay, so that's basically it. Just so there's a little more of a mix in each of the blocks. So now each of these will essentially have 8 different fabrics or thereabouts. So now that we've mixed things up a little and have some of the colors mixed throughout the different combinations, I'm going to chain stitch this, and I'm going to do 1 4 patch at a time. So I'll take these and I'll chain stitch the top blocks together here and here. And then I'm going to do the next all the way through, and then I'll come back, and for each pair I'll sew those together, and then I'll get them pressed and set aside, and they'll be finished. So let me go ahead and get some sewing done and show you what this is going to look like. I have all my 4 patches chain stitch, And you can see I just ran it through. There's a small thread there, and there we go. So what I do then is I flip these over and I just finger press on the back and I sew this. Now what we want to do is, let me just go ahead and I'm going to do it this way. I want to show you how to make sure we get our seams nested. And by finger pressing on the back side, we're getting our seam allowance to lay down, so it's going to be easier to get a nice nested seam. And what you do is you see you're going to get a great four corner there. And in order to do that, we need to make sure that these seams line up on the inside. So you want the ridge of that seam allowance to come side by side right there. And you can either pin it or hold it with your finger, your thumb and finger. And then what I'll do is I just start sewing and I come down and then I have my finished blocks. And I have these here that are completed. And I just, like I said, I just run everything right through the machine. And at the end, I trim them apart, and so these still need to be pressed. This other groups, the other four, have already been pressed. And what I'm doing now is I'm putting them in separate piles, and then I'm going to take one from each pile and just put them in the big pile. And then this is what I'm going to draw from as I am preparing to put my quilt together. And so by putting them in order like this, things will kind of get mixed up a little bit. There we go. Whoops. And then as I'm going through, if I find I want to change things around a little, that's easy enough to do. Like, you know, put this one in and this one and just kind of work around. There we go. And then I'll finish this one and put it on top. So now as I'm sewing, I'm going to actually start with one of my solids, or not my solids, but my big square. But this is what you also need to check at this point. Your seam allowance should be 1/4 inch, which will make your finished block measure 9.5 inches square. So you want to make sure that, let's line it up on the mat, you've got 9.5 inches all the way around. So these are 10, and that means before we can sew, we need to cut a 1/2 inch off two sides of these blocks. So that's going to be my next step, and then I'll show you how we'll go about putting these together, because we're going to make a large 4 patch, and that's just going to make the assembly be that much quicker. So let me go ahead and get started on that, and I'll be right back with you. Measuring your 4 patch is really important, because you're going to want this solid block that alternates between your 4 patches to be the same size as your 4 patch. Now, our seam allowance, even though we all aim for that 1/4 inch, can be a little bit different. So whatever the dimension is of your 4 patch, it needs to be square. Make sure that's what you trim your larger squares to be. That way, when you alternate, everything is going to fit together nice and snug. You'll have beautiful nested seams, and your quilt's going to be gorgeous. I can't wait to see it. I hope you post it online on your social media and share it with everybody. Remember, hashtag Louise Quilts. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the assembly and how we put these double blocks together. And I want to show you how to assemble your quilt. Everything starts with these pairs, one large block and then the 4 patch, and they're sewn together, and press your seams towards the large block. Then what you're going to do is pair them up to create this larger 4 patch. Now you want 9 of those, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and that gives you exactly a square. Now, From there, we're going to have 3 extra, and we're going to sew those in a strip and then just add them on the edge of the quilt. And that's going to give us our rectangle. I like that little extra room there for the quilt, but I love how this is turning out, and I really think you are going to enjoy making this. It's such a simple way to put a quilt together, and like I said, the versatility of this, once you understand how to make it, you can use so many fabrics, so many different options, like I said, from scraps to pre-cuts to yardage. I mean, it'd be perfect for fat quarters because you can cut your 10-inch squares and your 5-inch squares out of them. So lots to choose from, lots to think about, and I hope you're already thinking about the quilt you're going to make yourself. Now, wasn't that easy? Can't you just see yourself working on this quilt and putting it together with your favorite fabrics? And go grab some scraps and try some blocks and see what you think. I believe you will really enjoy this one. It's a lot of fun. And like I said, when you can finish a quilt top in a day, it's a very good day for quilting. Thanks so much for being here. It's always a pleasure having you join me. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Have a great day. Until next time, happy quilting.